Good afternoon. We're here with Mary and Rebecca for our first afternoon session for math and on Digital Learning Day. So I'm going to pass the torch to Rebecca now, and we'll see what Mary and Rebecca have in store for us.
Hey, everybody. Glad that you could join us. I'm over at CTC at Hall, and then I'm on Google Hangouts with Mary Williams, and she's over at Midlothian High School. So today we're going to do a little bit with sliders. So first thing we want to make sure you do is that you're in the Google Classroom. So if you haven't joined yet, the class code is JFCU3Z. And then once you're in the classroom, on the left-hand side here, you can click the Power of Sliders. And then you'll see all of the questions and links and everything that we'll be using throughout the session. Okay, and notice that it does have, we have about 19 people so far that have checked in. So if you're watching, check in there so we know where you are. Okay, and then I think we're good. So I'm going to turn it over to Mary, and she is going to, turn it over to Mary, and she's going to take care of showing you how to do sliders in Desmos. Okay, Mary.
Okay, well, hi, my name is Mary Williams, and I teach Algebra 2 and AFDA here at Midlothian High School, and I'm a huge Desmos fan, so I'm super excited to be able to share some tools with you that you can use to help get kids excited about math and using Desmos in your classroom. So as you may have seen in some of our earlier Digital Learning Day sessions, Desmos has grown into a platform that offers all kinds of different capabilities. At the heart of it all, it started off with the graphing calculator, and that's what I'm going to show you today. During the second portion, you'll do some things in Activity Builder, which is one of those types of things that Desmos has now integrated. One of the best things about Desmos is that it runs in the Chrome browser. So as long as students have that tab open on their Chromebook, they can use it even if they're not connected to the internet. So that works out so well for some of our students who don't have a graphing calculator at home because they can use Desmos right on their Chromebooks. So at the heart of it all is the graphing calculator. So I'm going to start with that. I'm going to show you what this graphing calculator is going to look like. So when you go to Desmos.com, this is the screen that you're going to see. And all you need to do is click that Start Graphing. This is the heart of Desmos right here. You can type your equation right in over here on the left on line 1. So for example, if I just typed in a simple linear equation, y equals x plus 1, here's my line. And unlike the TI-84, it doesn't even have to be in slope-intercept form. So for example, I could type something in standard form. So 2x minus 3y is equal to 6, and you've got your two lines there. So some general housekeeping things, we can't actually see where these are crossing, so I could either use my zooming features here, and I could zoom out so that I can see a little bit more, or I could zoom in if I wanted to see closer. And you can always click this button here to go home. You can also drag, so if I come over here, now I can see that my point of intersection is at -9, -8. It also marks your intercepts so that you can see those on your screen as well. To get rid of one of your graphs, you just simply click on the X button. I love how easy it is to type in fractions. If I want to type in 1/2 here, I'm just going to type in 1/2, and there's my fraction. Kids love that. So x plus 3, and that gives us another graph. Since you don't have to put them in slope-intercept form, that's really helpful for kids to understand transformations, and they can see how going from slope-intercept form to standard form, or if you're working in quadratics, how the different forms there work. And speaking of quadratics, if you look up here where these 3 bars are, this has a whole bank of canned graphs that Desmos has already prepared. So you can choose any one of these to drag onto your screen. So for example, if I was working with parabolas, I just click that and open graph, and there's a stock graph of what the quadratic would look like. There are trig graphs and calculus graphs. There's just all kinds of stuff, and the transformations are really cool. We're going to talk about slope-intercept form. So I could simply click on that and open it, and this would give me a slope-intercept form. So if you'll notice, the slope-intercept form is set up not with numbers, but with letters in there. And if you didn't already have that, you could simply type it in. So instead of having something like y equals x plus 1, I would use y equals mx plus b. You could activate these sliders simply by clicking the button, or you could click all and it would activate all of your sliders. This is such a powerful tool for helping kids understand what the impact of changing their slope and changing their y-intercept is. So when I move this for slope, you can see that the line is getting steeper and it's getting flatter. And what happens when your slope is negative? You can also change the y-intercept and have that go up and down so students can see the impact of changing B. Desmos also has these little gray triangles over here for animating, and you can change the speed of those or how deep they're going to go. You could animate both of them, and the kids love this when we start working with quadratics. Let me show you an example of that. So if I come up here, let's go to a parabola, and here are all of my sliders. So you can see the stretch factor, what happens if your A value is negative, and you can animate these as well. One of the coolest animation, I always show kids this to get them kind of excited about it, is this one that Desmos created called the Walking Man. And when you animate this one, you can see the man walk across your screens. Of course, the kids always want to try to create something like that. But we start out with something a little bit easier. Personally, I think it's just such a cool tool that kids can use to see the impact of changing those different variables has on their graphs. So let's go back to, let's work with an absolute value graph. So if I type in the stock graph, y equals a, x minus h, and plus k, and activate my sliders here, this is really helpful for teaching transformations because kids can see how that movement is going to change their graph. So that's just a couple different examples. One of the other things that's really great with Desmos is teaching domain and range. So for example, if I had a graph y equals 2x plus 1, this is my original graph, and there's the domain and the range aren't limited. But by simply adding on to the n that x is going to fall between 1 and 4, now I can see that my domain is limited. You could also limit your range. So for example, if I had y equals x squared minus 3, not plus, equals, that would be with it not being limited. But if I simply typed in -3 is less than y, which is less than 3, now my range is limited. There's all kinds of art projects that are out there on the web that you can Google and take a look at. Kids can create their own graphs. Here's an example that one of my students did a few years ago when Frozen was really big. So they really enjoy that. Some of my colleagues here at Midlothian High School like to have the students create their names instead of a picture with limiting domain and range because there's a little less likelihood that they might find something already out there online that they can pass off as their own. I would also like to show you how you can use systems of equations. So if I were to type in two equations like y equals 1/2, let's do a parabola in vertex form. And then my second one, this would show that there are two solutions, and you can just hover over those and click on them and it'll tell you what those two solutions are. In addition to be able to do equations, you can also do inequalities. So if instead of having y equals x plus 1, if I change that to greater than, then it's going to shade everything above the line. One of the neatest activities that I ever did was working with a system of inequalities. And before we got to that, we started talking about a Chick-fil-A example where I asked kids, okay, you've got this much money. And of course, they can all relate to Chick-fil-A. If you have this much money and this is how much different things cost, what are your different possibilities? And so the kids played around with it and came up with some different equations and got some data. And when they graphed it, so you can see this is going to be your inequality here. For the first time, I think ever, kids really got the fact if a point fell in that solution, then that meant that was valid. They could actually purchase that combination of stuff and it would be an example. So I really like the inequalities. You could also put in a system of inequalities. So y is less than -x minus 2 would then show you the second inequality. And this overlapping piece is going to be where the system falls. So students really like that. Some of the other housekeeping things you can do with this, you can change the colors of your line. So for example, if I wanted to change and have my graphs go to, sorry, let's say I just had y equals x plus 1. If instead of having that be red, for some reason I wanted to change the colors, you can click on this spool here and then pick on your color and say, oh, I actually want that to be black, or I want it to be dotted. And we use that a lot when we're working with inverses so that we can show that as a reflection tool. So that's just kind of an overview of what Desmos can do in the graphing calculator portion. And for the rest of today's session, you're going to be working with an activity builder. And that's going to look a little bit different. When you're in the activity builder, you're on the teacher screen. So it's going to, well, actually you'll be viewing it from the student screen, but I'll be posting some screenshots as you guys go through the activity so that you can get a glimpse of what it would look like from the teacher end. I just can't say enough good things about Desmos. If you have questions, please feel free to email me after this session. I'll be happy to talk to you some more about it. And Rebecca, I'll go ahead and hand this on back over to you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mary.
Trying to turn that off.
Okay. Wait, I think I'm still screen sharing. Okay, cancel. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mary, for sharing with us the sliders. We're going to do an activity now. So in order to do the activity, you're going to want to go to student.desmos.com. Okay, and when you do that, it'll ask for a code, and the class code is W4XBB. So you're going to actually play the role of a student like you would in your class. This is what you have your students be working on. And while you're working through the activity, Mary is going to be able to post on the classroom some screenshots so you can kind of see what it looks like from the teacher view, where she's able to anonymize and pause the class and all of those things. So you'll get a chance to see those from the teacher view. And then if you have questions as you're working or while you're working, make sure you post anything on Classroom. Mary and I will both be there. We can answer any questions you have. If you need more help, we have the iLearn sessions next week after school. Please join us there. And we hope that you enjoyed this quick little session and that you have something that you can apply to your classroom to help your students better understand mathematics. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Rebecca. It was a great learning experience in Desmos with those sliders. I might have to show Olaf to my kid just because he loves the guy that puts the carrot through his head. So thanks so much for making learning real and deepening kids' understanding of mathematics using a great tool like Desmos. You guys have a good day.
Thanks, you too, Matt.
Thanks. Bye.